Welcome to the Black Boss Ladies Platform, a place where women can gain inspiration for their journey to success through the powerful experiences of successful Black businesswomen, past and present. These women are redefining leveling up by creating legacies in their own time. Are you ready to do the same? Join the discussion on the BBL Platform, the place where legacies live.
Thank you for joining us this week. Here on the BBL Platform, we share the stories of Black boss ladies in interviews and vignettes. In this vignette, we will honor the great anti-lynching crusader, feminist, and suffragist Ida B. Wells-Barnett, one of the greatest Black boss ladies in history. An anti-lynching warrior, Ida B. Wells-Barnett was a true revolutionary. Though her pen was mighty, the journalist and one of the first ever investigative reporters also believed in keeping a Winchester rifle handy. She advocated fiercely for federal anti-lynching laws and took her battle to the White House. It is on her legacy that we all stand. In the preface to her biography, Wells writes, "A young woman recently asked me to tell her of my connection with the lynching agitation, which started in 1892. She said she was at a YWCA when the subject for discussion was Joan of Arc, and each person was asked to tell of someone they knew who had traits of character resembling the French heroine and martyr. She was the only colored girl present, and wishing not to lag behind the others, named me. She was then asked to tell why she thought I deserved such mention. She said, 'Mrs. Barnett, I couldn't tell her why. I had often heard people call you that, but I didn't know why.'" In 2023, as people now begin to ask the question of why Ida B. Wells-Barnett should be honored with a national holiday, it is important for us to again remind everyone of one of the greatest heroines in history. Ida B. Wells was born in Holly Springs, Mississippi during the Civil War. She and her family were not freed until the end of the war. As a teenager, Wells was already a rebel and was expelled from Rush University. Her lack of a degree was something that she lamented about for most of her young life, and would lead her to take summer classes at Fisk University. Tragedy struck the Wells family in 1878. Her father, mother, and youngest brother were all victims of yellow fever. At the age of 16, Wells became the sole breadwinner for the family, took on the care of her two sisters, and began to work in Mississippi in a one-room schoolhouse. Later, in the hopes of greater prospects in a larger city, she moved to Memphis. However, Wells struggled. People who knew her at the time described the young 20-something Wells as having ambitions to be a journalist, a physician, or an actress. She lacked direction and hated teaching, but had to keep her job to take care of herself and her siblings. Wells stated that she was not happy with the course of her life. She also encountered some of the same issues that young Black women face today. In her Memphis diary, she speaks of having a sharp tongue and the need to rein it in. Overspending, ingenuine men courting her, unhappiness with her work environment, and having to move several times due to inability to pay her rent. In one entry, she complains that she could not pay her rent and is so sorry that she bought a sack, which is a dressing gown, that she did not need. Many of us can relate to spending money that we did not have on things that we did not need and regretting it later. While working as one of the few Black school teachers in the Memphis School District, Wells began to pursue one of her passions, journalism. Though she worried that her writing would not be the same caliber as her writing peers because she did not finish college, she finds her voice writing articles for the Memphis Free Speech, wherein she complains of the injustices of the segregated Memphis School District. Writing under the pen name Iola, she finds that her simple way of writing connects with the regular man. However, What she would also learn is that writing about your job may have a detrimental effect, namely, no longer having a job. Her criticism of the school district led her to be fired. Losing her job marks a turning point in Wells' life. Though she had previously worried if she could earn enough money writing to support herself, she decides to fully embrace journalism as a career path. Her firing led her to bet on herself and to buy into and become part owner of the Memphis Free Speech. However, another tragedy would lead her to become an anti-lynching crusader. Wells writes, "While I was thus carrying on the work of my newspaper, happy in the thought that our influence was helpful and that I was doing the work I loved and had proved that I could make a living out of it, there came the lynching in Memphis, which changed the whole course of my life." Wells, in this writing, spoke of the lynching of her friend Thomas Moss. Moss was lynched by white business owners who did not want to compete economically with his black-owned grocery store, the People's Grocery. Moss, during his lynching, was said to have stated, "Tell my people to go west. There is no justice for them here." Wells stated that prior to the lynching of Moss, she had bought into the lie that lynching was a heinous killing that was a result of a heinous crime, rape of a woman. After her innocent friend was lynched, her worldview was forever changed. Wells became the lone voice in an anti-lynching campaign that spanned several decades. As the co-owner of the Memphis Free Speech, Wells advocated for a fair trial and warned black citizens to follow the words of her friend and leave Memphis. Travel west or north, but leave a town that she said would allow innocent blacks to be killed. And people took heed to her word. They began to leave Memphis in droves, causing a scarcity in domestic workers and customers. Because of this, whites began to threaten the owners of the Memphis Free Speech. However, one article would be the light to spark the match, which would lead a mob to burn her press to the ground and threaten that if she ever returned to Memphis, she would be killed. Wells wrote, 8 Negroes lynched since the last issue of the Free Speech. 3 were charged with killing white men and 5 with raping white women. Nobody in this section believes the old threadbare lie that Negro men assault white women. If Southern white men are not careful, they will overreach themselves and a conclusion will be reached, which will be very damaging to the moral reputation of their women. In this writing, Wells implied that white women were having consensual relationships with black men and then crying rape when they were caught. This implication, if allowed to stand, would weave too deep a fissure in the facade of white supremacy, which often depended on the view of white women as virtuous. Thus, to right this wrong, Memphis Free Speech was burned to the ground. Though Wells would relocate, the burning of her press would only serve as fuel to her fire. Wells wrote, "They had destroyed my paper, in which every dollar I had in the world was invested. They had made me an exile and threatened my life for hinting at the truth. I felt that I owed it to myself and my race to tell the whole truth." In Chicago, Wells would become even more prolific as a writer and justice warrior. She married Ferdinand Barnett and became Ida B. Wells-Barnett. She took over his paper and began traveling alone throughout the country and investigating lynching and riots. Wells says to blacks concerning lynching, "The lesson this teaches is that a Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black home, and it should be used for that protection which the law refuses to give." She was known to travel with a pistol, gathered first-person testimony from witnesses, and published her investigative reporting in Southern Horrors, Lynch Law in All Its Phases, and the Red Record. Southern Horrors lynch law in all its phases created a nationwide movement against lynching. Though she was the reason why the NAACP began an anti-lynching campaign, she was unfortunately shaded by W.E.B. Du Bois and Mary White Overton and not elected as a leader in the NAACP anti-lynching campaign. When members discovered that she was left out, they were rightly outraged and demanded that her name be added, as it was her work that helped them decide to begin the campaign in the first place. However, she quieted the group and chose not to be a part of the NAACP anti-lynching campaign. Internal struggles within NAACP may also be why Wells' name is not often mentioned as a founder. However, historical records show that she's a founding member of the actual first civil rights organization, the National Association of Colored Women, the NAACP, and the Chicago Alpha Suffrage Club, the first black female suffrage group. Her experience is a testament to no matter how well respected you are, there will be those that are in opposition to you. That is the nature of life. It is up to you to choose to press forward. Though she worked tirelessly to expose lynching as a heinous crime perpetuated to oppress black people, even visiting the White House in 1898, an anti-lynching law would not be passed until 2020. The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act was passed decades after Till was lynched and over 100 years after Wells-Barnett began her campaign against lynching. Many scholars have rightfully noted that there will be no anti-lynching bill without Ida B. Wells-Barnett. Ida B. Wells-Barnett is truly a black boss lady, and her legacy will live on the Black Boss Ladies platform.
Thank you for joining us on the BBL Platform podcast, the place where legacies live. We hope you will join us on our next inspirational journey to success. Be sure to rate, like, and subscribe to our show. For more information, please visit our website at theBBLplatform.com.